right, guys. Today I am joined with someone who's played heroes with heart, detectives with lots of depth. Now I'm an English teacher, Billy, so I got a little creative here with some adjectives and characters that stay with you long after the credits have rolled. Of course, many of us know him best as the guy behind me, Mr. Cliff Secord, the Rocketeer, a role that just celebrated, ready to feel old, Billy,
Yeah,
34 years.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you don't look it, sir. You look great.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome. And remains probably one of the most beloved cult classics in all of cinema. But Billy Campbell is more than just a jetpack wearing hero. He's an adventurer, and from what I just found out, a Tolkien fan, right?
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Yes.
I love it. And a sailor. Is that also correct?
Ish. I'm a bit of a sailor.
Okay,
I
so
have a
I do, again, the internet can be
yeah. I have
as
a
I
thing
tell my
for it.
students, don't believe what you read on the internet.
No.
And now he is a resident of a beautiful country that I would love to hike one day, Norway.
Mm, that's right. That's true.
And as someone who also loves hiking and Tolkien storytelling, I've been looking forward to this conversation, not just as a fan. You ready for this one? But as a fellow wanderer. You like that?
That's pretty good.
All right, Billy, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, I can't begin to thank you enough for being so kind and generous with your time for a nerd teacher like myself.
It's my pleasure. I mean, the movie was such a joyous and seminal part of my life that I never tire of talking about it with people who feel that who kind of have a love for it.
Yeah, and the story for me was real simple. I was 9 years old, I think. And
Mhm.
have you been down to Orlando, Florida?
I not since well before the movie.
So Orlando was having a big to do about the movie as they did back then. And I think my dad was, I'm one of eight kids. So
Mm. Wow.
so we didn't get to travel much because when we did, it was a small fortune. So we were on our way down to MGM and they had the place decked out with all this stuff. This Rocketeer guy, I'd never heard of it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And as an 8, 9 year old kid, I was like, So I couldn't see it at the first run theater because being eight kids, my mom would always take us to the dollar theater.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember dollar theaters.
Yeah, of course I do.
So I saw it at the dollar theater and it just remained with me. And I remember my dad and I would bond over the scene with Valentine saying, oh, is the line. I might not be 100% American, but no, I don't, Billy, I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no. I might be a mobster. I might be a criminal or something like that, but I'm 100% American.
But that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember every time that line hit, my dad, wherever we were on the couch at home, he just kind of nudged me and this twinkle in his eye. And, you know, and he and I didn't get along on much, but when that played, so then, I kind of forgot about it. And then as I was in acting school, I just used one of your lines. My undergraduate minor was in film and cinema, and I actually did some dabbling in acting before I got into teaching. I was in an episode of this Fox show called Sleepy Hollow, and
Mm.
I was an extra, and boy, was that interesting. But I did your line from the end of the movie. I had to prepare myself. I was doing a Sam Shepard True West play, and
Yeah.
I was just kind of loosening my lips up. And one movie that just popped in my head was your line from the end was when Howard Hughes asked you what it was like strapping that thing, something about blah, blah, something bad out of hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said, I'll tell you what, Mr. Hughes, it was the closest thing I'll ever get to heaven. Was that
Never
it?
get to heaven. Yeah.
Yep. And then you look at Jennifer Connelly and say, well, maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I practiced that line. And so, yeah, there you go. I'll shut up about myself. Let's get to the question. All right. So some of these are me. And what I'm going to do is I know it's been 34 years. And
Mm.
that's like someone saying, Chris, tell me what you taught back in September. And I'm not going to
Mm.
be. So we just passed the 34th. When you think back on it, that time of your life,
Yeah.
what first comes to mind? And I don't care if it's about Rocketeer or anything, Billy. It could be.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, when I think about that time in my life. I was living in a house in LA with my brother and my other good friend Pete, playing a lot of video games and going to the Renaissance Fair. And so I guess that's the first thing that pops into my head is all the fun that we had up at the house in Pacific Palisades, which no longer exists. It burnt down earlier this year.
Oh.
But that was weird. I went out to LA. I was in LA in February or whenever it was, March maybe. I went up to the neighborhood, and it was completely burned down.
Mm.
So I sold the house in 19, but I spent most of my life in that house. So
Right.
it was still kind of a gut punch to walk up the front stairs and just look at a pile of ashes.
Yeah. Did you ever make a chance to get it to Paramount Ranch up in Agora Hills?
Well, when I first started going to it wasn't quite Paramount Ranch, but when I first started going to the Renaissance Fair in probably 1983 or so, it was in Agora.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it in Agora? Was it in Thousand Oaks? Is that the same, Agora and
I
Thousand
think
Oaks?
so. I think so. Yeah, I went there to go visit.
Anyway, it was in the
Yeah,
hills there
yeah,
before they moved down to San Bernardino.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So you Renaissance festivals.
Mm.
How did you like that?
How did I like it? I
Yeah,
loved it. I
yeah.
loved it.
Which Renaissance festival did you go
It
to
was
there?
my life for a while. It was the Southern California Renaissance Fair. And it was, as I say, when I first started going, it was still in the hills. I think Agora Hills or something like that. Anyway, it
Hmm.
was, up in the mountains. Um, and it was really charming, and it was a lot smaller. Then
Hmm.
it moved to San Bernardino, and I think the busiest day that I ever worked there, we had 25,000 people on a Saturday, I think, or maybe it was over a 3-day weekend. I can't remember,
Yeah,
but it was like it got really big.
I looked one up here. It says Irwindale, California. Does that sound familiar?
Well, I think they moved it again from San Bernardino, and now it's
Renaissance Pleasure Fair of Southern California.
yeah, that's it then. It's in Irwindale now, and I went once about probably 12 years ago or something, and it was really just a ghost of its former self. It wasn't, I still saw some of the old folks were still working the fair, and it was nice to see them, but it really didn't have the same cachet that it used to.
Oh yeah, the one here in Atlanta. Again, I'm sorry, I'm a nerd, but I went dressed up as Legolas from Tolkien's.
You told me that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and my partner, she dressed up as Arwen,
yeah.
and then one year, I don't know if you've ever heard of cosplay. I got a question here about it, but
Of course, I've heard of cosplay. I spent
so
years doing cosplay at
I guess that's what you
exactly.
could call it. Yeah, Renaissance
Yeah,
Festival.
yeah,
So the year that Pirates of the Caribbean came out, a friend of mine worked there, and he was cosplaying as a Jack Sparrow, right?
mm,
And at the time he was like, dude, if you grew out your hair a bit and grew a mustache, you could pull Orlando Bloom's Will Turner. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we went and worked the pirate ship selling swords
there you
and
go.
and
Yeah.
and we called them rennies back then. I don't know if you ever heard that word before. People that worked at Renaissance festivals, they called them rennies.
Not at SoCal. I can't remember what they called us there. Probably just nerds, I guess. But um,
I love it.
yeah, I mean, I lived the life, man. I used to go on Thursday or Friday and stay the whole weekend and sleep there and carouse after hours and drink a shitload of beer and Guinness.
I love it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was doing a half-hour version of The Taming of the Shrew,
Oh,
playing
nice.
Petruchio 3 times a day, and I would show up before the first on the Saturday morning. I guess I would show up early. I'd hit all of the ale tents before my first performance. So I would be like 6 or 7 pints of Guinness in before my first performance,
Now,
and then you had to
you
just keep.
drinking out of a horn there, Viking.
No, I was. Yeah, I guess I was. I think I was drinking out of a horn
I was
at
about to
that.
say
No,
Renaissance.
no, no, no. Sorry, I had an old dented. I still have it
No way.
here.
No
No, I have it
way.
in. It's in Vancouver.
Love it.
I still have my mug. It's an old pewter mug and goblet actually,
There you
and
go.
it's still around somewhere.
So you prefer to do some of your acting with a few Guinnesses in to loosen you up a bit?
At the Ren Fair, absolutely.
Love it. Yes. And with a turkey leg,
Absolutely.
maybe. Did you guys eat a lot of turkey leg?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Even before I worked at the Renaissance Fair, when I was just going as a civilian, we used to dress up, and that's when it was still in Agora Hills. And I used to go get a turkey leg
Oh, I
and
love it.
take a huge bite out of it and have it the grease and the meat sticking out of my mouth, and then go around trying to sell kisses for $1. Um,
My goodness, Billy,
which
you probably made a nice little killing on that, right?
no one ever paid me a
Oh,
single dollar. It was just that it was just the it was just my joke.
I love
It
it.
was yeah.
I love it. This is great. All right. So sorry if we wander off in the weeds too much. I'll try and bring us back.
No, please don't. I'm
uh,
happy as a clam.
so we've got a question now, and so I don't focus too hard on Rocketeer. I'm going to go nature in Norway now. So now that you're living in Norway, where do you and your family do you like to hike? Are there places that you like to
Yeah,
just
there are
let's?
plenty of places to hike. We don't live in a I mean, we live in a farming community on my wife's family's farm
Oh, wonderful.
in the south of Norway, about an hour south of Oslo on the east side of the Oslo fjord. Um, and I mean, there's plenty of hiking. Um, there's the coastal path, and then there's the local woods. Um, Norway is one of those kind of right to roam
Mm-hmm.
countries. So there's no such thing really as not being able to traipse across some private property. Um, I mean, it's like you can't, within reason, you can't, of course, go camp out in somebody's backyard, but
Sure.
um, you know, you can walk the entire coast
Right.
and not have to worry about crossing somebody's property or getting shot or something like that. Yeah, so it's a pretty friendly environment for hiking, and they
Love it.
do have that whole, and they also have a system whereby they have they've got hundreds upon hundreds, maybe thousands of miles of hiking inland and up the coast and in the mountains, and there's a system of huts, so you can hike to a hut, and
Right.
then you'll be able to have some running water and maybe a wood stove or place to have a fire or cook some food.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's a very very friendly hiking, and just as beautiful as you can imagine.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to next week. I'm going to Mammoth Caves National Park in
Mm.
southern Kentucky, and we've booked a 4 mile hike, and it's 4 miles in a cave the entire time.
Holy wow!
Yeah, so the whole area has got like limestone and stuff, and over the years, the limestone's been washed away, and now it's
Yeah,
just a whole cave system. So I
four
love it.
miles in a cave. That's amazing.
Right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so used to like we did Yosemite not too long ago, and
Mm.
that's all outside, and you hook up your bladder pack and everything to stay
Mm.
hydrated. But I'm like, I think they said the cave maintains 55 degrees year
That's
round,
amazing.
right?
That's amazing. I did a TV movie, in a horrible TV pilot in Angels Camp, California.
Okay,
Do you know where that is?
I do not. I do not.
It's a bit north in California. You can Google it, but it's it's the place, I think, that Twain set his short story, the famous jumping frog of Calaveras County or something like that.
That's in one of
Anyway,
my books. I love it. One of my fifth graders read that.
yeah, I think that takes place in Angels Camp. But anyway, it was a mining, I think it was a mining area,
Mm-hmm.
or gold rush area or something. And anyway, there was a farmer in Angels Camp that kept his sheep kept going missing,
Mm.
and he discovered a hole in his sheep pasture that was bottomless, and went down into the hole and discovered this entire enormous cavern system. And his sheep, of course, had been falling down the hole. So anyway, they've plumbed it, and they put a house over the hole, and so that's the visitor center. And then you get geared up with your climbing stuffs, and the first thing you do is you drop into this hole onto a ledge, and then you drop off this ledge, which is about 15 feet deep, and you drop over this ledge into, I mean, basically it's the roof of a enormous cathedral like room of this cavern.
Oh
You
wow.
repel all the way down to the bottom,
Oh, I like it.
and then you go off into the various tunnel caverns. It's amazing,
Oh
absolutely
wow.
amazing.
Sounds like
Yeah,
my kind of place. I just looked.
yeah.
It's just yeah, it's just like right around Sacramento. It's like east
Mm,
of Sacramento.
yeah,
All right. So, Rocketeer, let's do it. All right.
yeah,
So, got the outfit here behind me. By the way, what was the biggest? So, I've worn this outfit. I got hired to do an air show.
yeah.
What was the biggest pain in the butt for you wearing this costume? Go ahead.
I would say, I mean, it was mainly comfortable. I would say the helmet sometimes fogging up if I was being uh, if I had a lot of action, um, and it was a sustained scene. But and then also the rocket pack kind of jiggling on my back.
Yeah, let me turn
It
that
never.
around so you can get a look at that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was the rocket pack sort of jiggling on my back wasn't terribly comfortable. But other than that, I mean, it's riding gear basically, so it's the clothing is perfectly comfortable. It was a nice costume, and a beautifully designed rocket. I mean, the rocket is so much more believable than as much as I love Dave Stevens' work. The rocket in the comic is not very realistic looking. This thing looks like it could actually function.
Yeah, Dave's was kind of like stylistic,
Yeah,
it worked on the page.
yeah, yeah,
And so when I wore this, same thing, a lot of bumping. Now this one's 3D printed. So someone, again, I'm a nerd here. So
yeah,
the guy that did the helmet is out of California,
yeah.
and he slush casted it. And so my girlfriend slash partner here, we're common law at this point. She's a painter, and she was like,
Mm.
Chris, order it blank. I want to paint it for you because she knows how
Oh,
much I
that's
love
nice.
this.
Yeah.
So she painted the helmet, and the same thing with the rocket pack. A guy on the internet that just 3D prints this stuff. He 3D printed it and sent it to us. Same thing. She was like, leave it unpainted as a gift to you. As a gift to you, I want to paint it.
That's crazy.
And so the bubble gum, the Beeman's gum is on there, and
That's fantastic.
that's the thing that people ask the most about is
Yeah.
the weird thing that every time someone I put it on my TikTok, I've got a Rocketeer TikTok
Yeah.
and Instagram is, hey, did you make sure to put the bubble gum on there?
You're like, yes, I did.
Yeah, I did. And yeah, so let's ask the question here.
Mm,
So Cliff Secord is a very grounded, heart first kind of character, right?
mm.
Did you personally connect with him at all when you were doing that role? Was a little bit of Cliff inside you at all?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I kind of connected with the thing from the beginning when I first, I mean, my first real connection was when you know, I went and got the graphic novel, at the comic book store, and I realized that I looked like the character. And that's because Dave drew himself. I mean, he's basically the Rocketeer in his drawings, and Dave and I looked a lot alike.
I see
Um,
that. Yeah, I really do see that.
and so that's the first thing I identified with. I thought that's the first time I thought, wow, I could actually get this movie. And then I did kind of identify with Cliff's, like just kind of puppy dog nature in a way. And
Your character in Star Trek Next Gen, I'm going to go ahead and say it.
huh,
The character you did in Next Gen,
yeah,
I
yeah,
watched it last night,
yeah.
and there were a little bit of Cliff in there.
Oh
Little,
God, I wish I could erase that performance.
oh no! So I my my
If
partner.
I could snap my fingers and get rid of that performance, I would.
Oh, stop! My partner came out. And she's like, "What are you watching?" She's like, "Is that Next Gen?" And I don't even typically watch Star
Yeah.
Trek. And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Is that Billy?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh wow!" And in that one scene, I was like, "He's playing this very Casanova, but
Yeah.
very how do I put this? Sort of goofy like Cliff, but like you're,
Mhm.
I don't know. There was something there about it. I was like, I know it was like 1988, so I was like, I could see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was super uncomfortable with that. To be honest, I think that the dialogue was not very good, and I was not um, confident enough at the time to improve bad dialogue. Um, and I just was terribly, terribly self-conscious. It pains me. I've seen it a couple times, and it pains me to watch it
No, no,
because I remember how terribly, terribly self-conscious I was saying some of that dialogue, most of it. So anyway, but
no.
I'm happy. I'm as a nerd, I'm super happy that I'm part of this Star Trek universe.
I mean, you got to work with, I mean, Patrick Stewart,
Yeah, Patrick and everybody, Whoopi and
Whoopi Goldberg,
yeah,
Will Wheaton,
yeah,
and
all of them.
so great, so great.
Yeah.
All right, so all right, so this one's a Disney one, and since you haven't been to Orlando, I'm going to kind of tell you
Hmm.
the Rocketeer is still alive in the Disney parks. Okay. And it's crazy because I'm here in Augusta, Georgia, which is kind of like we're on the border of South Carolina and Georgia. And so it's about a
Hmm.
7 hour drive. I go down there and they have a place where you can get drinks called PV's Polar Pipeline.
Huh.
And it's brought to you by Coca-Cola. And Billy, it's still there.
That's
And
hilarious.
they have a helmet. They've got a pack
Hmm.
and they can serve you a frosty with some Jack Daniels in it if you want. Uh,
Well, they have
um,
Jack Daniels at Disneyland,
they do. It was Disney World. Yeah, they've got.
Disney World.
Yeah, and so if you look in the back though, there's little pictures of Alan Arkin's characters, blueprints, and
Hmm.
they have completely gotten rid of everything else though. Like anything you would think of, like that Indiana Jones, anything from the 90s is gone. So I started doing some digging and I asked some people that are actually in charge of decorating. They're called Imagineers. Well,
Hmm.
apparently the Imagineers love the Rocketeer. There's like a couple of them that
Hmm.
when it comes to redecorating and stuff, they want to make sure to throw something in there.
Right.
And so in front of the Chinese theater recreation there at Disney, they actually, if you look down, they've got like all these actors from the 90s handprints. They've got the
Hmm.
Rocketeer on there. So
That's hilarious.
I'm assuming those aren't your handprints.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't think so.
Okay. Cause yeah, they do. And it's great. They have Rocketeer handprints. And instead of, they've got like heel prints and blast marks where it looked like he landed. Now, so did you know that Joe was going to shoot a scene there? And I don't know if it got cut, but you were actually, Cliff was going to cut. I think it's where
Yeah.
you're flying over the Grom
Yeah.
Chinese. Did you know about this?
Yeah, yeah. I was supposed to land and put my feet in the wet cement and so forth, but it didn't. For some reason, it didn't make it in.
Yeah. So
So
that is
yeah,
still there. That's still there to this day.
that's funny.
And if you go in the little place where you sit down and eat dinner, like in an old car and watch a movie,
Mm.
They've got the Jenny picture from the GB hanging up somewhere. They've got another rocket pack hanging up. They've got a foam rocket pack. And this is here we are 2025, 34 years later. And
Mm.
this stuff is still there. Like they've gotten rid of, they had Honey, I Shrunk the Kids stuff. They've gotten rid of
Yeah.
all that. But I'm telling you, Billy, it made a mark. And
Huh. That's funny.
it's still making a mark. All right. So that's my nerdiness there. All right. So what let's go Tolkien here. I teach Tolkien to
Yeah.
middle schoolers. You were telling me that while you were in military academy,
Hmm.
you read some Tolkien.
Yeah.
What of his books did you like the most, if you can remember?
Well, I mean, The Hobbit and the 6 books of the Lord of the Rings, um, or as their people call them, a trilogy, I guess. But um, I mean, they basically saved my life. I had an English teacher um, who was there, young guy who turned me on to Tolkien, and they basically saved my life. I mean, I there was sort of a lifeline for me. I read them every chance I had. I like carried the books in my back pocket, and if I had 10 minutes, I would whip it out and read, a paragraph. If I had 2 minutes, I would whip it out and read a couple of sentences. Um, and they saved my life. The guy who actually turned me on to Tolkien, his name was, his last name was Pancake,
Yeah,
believe it or not.
I like that.
Um, and I always say, so Captain Pancake saved my bacon, which he did. He was a faculty officer. Of course, the rank is fake. It's a military school. He wasn't actually a captain, but uh, he was known to us as Captain Pancake, and he actually was a fantastic writer. He wrote a book of short stories. If you Google Breece, Breece Pancake, the stories of Breece Pancake, you'll see that
Yeah, here he is.
he
Yeah.
has a collection, yeah, and um, he was a fantastic writer, no less than Kurt Vonnegut, I think, read his writing, and was it Kurt Vonnegut? And was talking to another famous writer at a party
Mm-hmm.
and basically said, I promise you this guy is the real thing. But anyway, he killed himself
Oh no.
not long after that. Um,
He's from West Virginia and died in your hometown of Charlottesville.
yes, he did. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So anytime you say English teachers like that are inspirational, I tell my students that every year because what brought me when I was a kid that made me want to read was S.C. Hinton's The Outsiders. I don't know if you've ever read
Mm,
that. It's
mm,
the wonderful movie with Patrick Swayze. And I tell my kids that we're going to read things because I think for people reading it should be something that sparks an interest in you
yeah.
to want to read it. And I think for me that's what started that. Then Lord of the Rings and Tolkien was college, and I
Mm,
think seeing the films first really got me into it. Which
mm,
kind of like the Rocketeer. I had never read any of Dave's works,
mm.
so you went the other direction to study for your character. I had when I first saw it, I had never read any of the comics, and I met Jennifer. We had lunch together out in California, not too far from where Dave is buried,
Mm.
and I started. She was like, "You really need to read more of his stuff," and I did, and just mind blowing. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm going off on
Yeah.
a tangent here.
Yeah.
All right, so I had a guy on one of my social medias want me to ask you, what was it like filming in Jimmy Franklin's Wacko plane, especially those aerial shots that had the GB tail section attached? I'm assuming you know what he's talking about. I'm not an aviation guy, but he said something about when you did the GB scenes, they had you in a plane that was outfitted to look like a GB.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they had me in a three an open cockpit biplane, three cockpit biplane.
Okay.
Um, and they had Craig Hosking, who was the stunt pilot in the front cockpit, the camera in the middle cockpit aimed backward, and everything from the middle cockpit backward was painted out yellow to resemble the GB, and they constructed a fake cockpit to go, a fake, um, what do you
Oh,
call it?
the dome.
The dome.
Yeah. I know
I
what you
can't,
mean.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Hatch, I guess, uh, to go over the last cockpit, and that's where I was doing my stuff. The only catch was that this particular biplane, or maybe even most biplanes, are multi-cockpit biplanes are flown from the rear cockpit typically. So there are a couple or a few non-redundant controls in the rear cockpit, which I was responsible for um, remembering uh, to use at the proper
So
time. And I think
you were actually flying. There was some actual.
I wasn't controlling the plane, but if I had not pushed the choke in at the proper time, or locked the tail wheel, uh, what else was back there? I can't remember what else was back there. A couple things that I remember: the choke and the tail wheel lock were back there, and I had to remember when to do them, or we could have come to ruin.
So
So that was a bit nerve making. Um,
was that your? I hear rumors that was your first time flying. Is that true?
no, that's not
Okay.
true.
Okay. Good. That's why I'm
That
asking.
that probably springs from the notion that I have made no secret of the fact that I don't like flying, and that I'm a little more comfortable with it now than I have been previously in my life. But at that point, I didn't like flying at all. Um, Funnily enough, after the film was over, I went to do a kind of a pseudo documentary, which is really one of those things that was more like a publicity thing that Disney made for the movie, but
Oh, I think I've
it,
seen that. I think I've
it
seen
was
that.
about flying, right? And one of the segments for the doc, we went down to San Diego to Torrey Pines, and we did a hang gliding thing off the cliffs in Torrey Pines, and I loved it. I got addicted to hang gliding.
Oh, that's
So
great.
I don't like flying planes, but I do enjoy hang gliding. Um, and so, yeah, so no, I mean, it's not true that I had never flown, but is true that I didn't like
Just
it.
not a fan of flying.
Not a fan of flying.
Gotcha. So what? I'm thinking of this. What was that the was supposed to be oil that they threw all over your face
Hmm.
when the bullets hit? What was that? Do you remember?
It was an oil of some sort with probably makeup dirt in it or something.
I got you.
Yeah,
I always
I
wonder
don't.
that.
I don't think it was. It certainly wasn't engine oil,
I'd
used
hope not.
engine oil,
Yeah.
which would be dark. No, but it was some kind of makeup oil with yeah with like makeup dirt in it or something to make it look like used engine oil.
The hangar is still there in Santa Maria, California. Did you know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess all of that is still there.
Well, I think I spoke to the owner. It's a beautiful aviation history museum now. They've got stuff from the Howard Hughes movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in it. They've
Yeah.
got but the cool part is they've got a French version of the Rocketeer poster and a bunch of little collectibles and the actual doors that do the opening scene there from the
Mm,
beginning. And
mm.
it's all there. They just moved it a little back further from the thing. It's right. I don't know if you remember being there, but it's right near Pismo Beach and uh, yeah, Dinosaur Beach. I think at Dinosaur Park or something down.
Hmm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I actually did that again. We went to Yosemite. My partner, she's very patient with my nerdiness, and she allowed me to throw some Rocketeer stuff in there. Okay,
That's nice.
so I have to get it out of the way because everyone asks. Oh, well, actually, yeah. First, why not have? So you said you've gotten into aviation by means of hang gliding. Is
Yeah.
that correct? But never any people do ask, did you ever get into wanting to fly planes like Harrison Ford or other actors that actually got
John
into it?
Travolta, no.
And Goldie Hawn's husband, what's his name? Oh,
Kurt Russell.
yes, and actually, yeah,
Hmm.
I think he claimed he saw aliens or something. That's another story for another day. Anyways, so here it is. The question I get asked since I'm the only guy, Billy, on TikTok, crazy enough to start an entire page dedicated to my Rocketeer collection. So what you see behind me here, I've got
Yeah.
the costume. That's the one thing my partner allows me to kind of because I tell her I was like, I know it's a lot, and she gets it, and that's part of love.
Yeah.
So over here, I've got a Bulldog Cafe cookie jar that
Yeah.
I've got uh, little trinkets. I've got the very first thing I owned that I got when I was a kid. She made me a Rocketeer Ken Barbie doll one year for Christmas. She went and bought. Let me get it out. I got to show you.
She is a saint. She is a saint. That's hilarious.
So she actually made this, believe it or not. She made this. She took a regular Barbie doll,
Yeah.
a Ken doll, and I remember on Christmas I opened this up. I said, "What have you done? What is this?"
That's amazing.
I said, "Did they make this?" She said, "No, I made this."
She's a
And
keeper. She's a keeper.
Billy says you're a keeper, Nadine. Her name is Nadine, and she's over here peeking in. Yep, and now she's gone. She's shut camera shy. But
Yeah.
so yeah, on TikTok, I just started collecting, and I think it happened
My
during.
son, on the other hand, is not camera shy.
Hey, what's your name? But what's your name, buddy?
Anton.
Anton. Do you recognize this guy?
My dad.
Yes, there you go. Look at your dad, and look behind me. Do you see your dad's outfit back here?
Cool.
Yeah. So your dad's talking to a really nerdy guy that likes the movie that your dad was in.
Yeah.
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 Well, nice to meet you, Anton. My name's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Nice to meet you. How do you like living in Norway?
Really much. I love it.
Yeah. He doesn't know any different. This is where he lives.
I love it. Nice to meet you. How old are you, Anton?
10.
10. So that would put you around grade 5.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite subject?
Gym.
Football.
Oh, gym. Well, I teach kids almost your age. I teach here in America, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, reading and writing. And here we call it ELA, English Language Arts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite book?
I read a lot of books that I like.
Oh, that's good.
I don't really have a favorite.
Okay. Well, tell your dad has one called The Hobbit. Have you ever heard of The Hobbit?
Oh, The Hobbit.
When he gets old enough, I'm just waiting until he's just the perfect age to start reading The Hobbit.
You and your dad would y'all need to read that together and then watch the movies together and pick out all the differences. But it's nice to meet you, Anton.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Bedtime.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Anton. Bye.
Bye.
Happy school year. It looks like is it still daytime there, Billy?
It's no, it's 10, it's after 10 o'clock, but it's that time of year that it stays light.
How much nighttime do you guys get there?
It'll be dark and around midnight, I guess, and it'll start getting light around 4.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Neat. All right. So
I'll come in and sing and a little later.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're still awake.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Anton.
Bye, Chris.
All right. So the question I get a lot, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, guys, he doesn't know. I don't know. Sequel. Chris, my students ask me this. I get asked multiple times a day, what's the plans for sequel? And I tell them, I said, I don't know. And they said, I'm going to ask you this question. You answer this as Billy, not as Disney and the behemoth that is. You just asked this as Billy. The question is, would you prefer a revival with returning cast and maybe as an animation, feature length animation,
Mhm.
uh, or a reboot with a new generation?
I mean, I guess I would prefer to see uh, picking up with the same characters in a live action thing sometime later. Um, hi, Findus. Um, the cat has decided to drop in on
Oh, I
me.
love cats. Let's see
Come
him.
here.
Come on in. Bring the cat
Come
in.
here.
I
Come
like
here.
cats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's here. He's here.
Oh, look at this guy.
Yeah. That's
What's
his
his
name is
name?
Findus.
Findus.
Yeah.
He looks a lot like my baby Pippin that passed.
There's
Oh,
one.
Findus is big. Look at that
No.
guy.
No.
Hello, Findus.
All right. Take him.
Love it.
Hey, has he had the tick medicine?
I think so.
Okay. Because I don't put him in bed with you.
Come on, move your back. I'm gonna show how big.
No, he's pretty big.
Wow, he's a big guy.
He's been with Anton for a long time. They're best buddies.
How old is Fenton?
I mean, he's probably what, 7 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. I'll be in.
Eh,
All right.
all right, so back we were talking sequels. I'm gonna throw this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this at you, and you know, I've talked to Jennifer about it all the time.
Mhm.
Most of Jennifer and I's conversations are based around silly dad jokes and puns because we both have that silly sense of humor. But occasionally I'll throw that at her, and you know, Dave had a style and Dave had a storytelling way, and I think to honor his legacy, I think it's important to keep that. And I think what you brought to the character is important to keep. And I think what Joe and Jennifer and God rest his soul, Alan brought to Peavy, I think it's something that is worth revisiting. But I know my idea is they've got this. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the guy that's in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his name is Kevin Feige.
Mhm.
While they were doing this new Disney Plus series called Marvel's What If, and it's just where they take all these characters and they take what if Captain America was Peggy Carter and what if this or that. Well, apparently in one of the episodes it was tabled, Billy, that they said let's throw the Rocketeer in there as an
Mhm.
animation, and it's like an adult style animation. And the idea was thrown around for a bit,
Mhm.
Rocketeer to come in and mingle with Captain America and Iron Man, and they eventually tabled it. And Kevin Feige said he didn't want it, and I'm sure there's legalities involved because he's not owned by, or the comic version. I don't know how they do that, but anyways,
Mhm.
I think it would be neat to retell it as an animation, or if the live action scares people. I mean, you did the live action Disney Junior show. Were you her father or her uncle in that? I believe
No, it wasn't live action. It was animated.
animated. And did you do her? You did a voice on it?
Yeah, I think I was her father.
Her
I
father.
was, yeah,
So I don't.
yeah.
It's such a tough question. And then there's rumors that David Aiello was wanting to do one.
I heard that too.
Yeah, and this one is interesting because I just got back from Florence, South Carolina, and they have an Air Force base there, and they have a whole section dedicated to the Tuskegee Airmen, and they've got a
Mm.
P-51 Mustang, and that's a cool idea also. But I was thinking, I was like, that's great for diversity's sake, and I like that. But I was like, what if we do something where Peavy, in order to honor Alan, because at the end of the movie, he still has the plans, have
Mm.
some sort of Nazi double agent come in and kill Peavy. And
Mm.
there's your jumping off point, but
Mm.
also still honoring Alan.
Mm.
What do you think about that as a fellow nerd?
That's kind of a fun idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I the Marvel thing, I don't really care for. I'm not a huge superhero geek to
Right.
begin with. I mean, it's fine. Superhero movies are fine. They're not really my cup of tea. It's not like I never go see them. I do.
Right. Sure.
But they never really have been my cup of tea. Even when I was a kid in military school collecting comic books, it really was, I didn't collect superheroes at all. The only really, I just collected artists,
Right.
which were basically my two favorite were Jack Kirby and Joe Kubert.
Oh, love it.
Um, and so I collected. I still have all my original Commandy, the Last Boy on Earth comics. But my point being, I, I, I would not really care for a crossover with the Rocketeer with proper superheroes, because the Rocketeer is not a superhero and he doesn't exist in a superhero universe. He exists, theoretically in the real world.
Sure.
And so that to me kind of, yeah, I wouldn't want to see that.
So Billy, the phone rings. It's Disney, and
Yeah.
they say, "Hey, Billy, you want to come back and do Cliff?" What's your answer?
Well, sure, depending on what what it is. Like if it's a Marvel mashup, I probably not. Because I don't, I mean, I feel pretty strongly about Dave and Dave's work, and Alan, who was a dear friend until the day he died. And yeah, I wouldn't want that to be lessened in any way.
Yeah, you guys caught magic in a bottle, and I think the problem nowadays is I like the style it was shot in. I liked all the practical effects. I like the fact that they jammed you in an airplane and made you fly. I was like, and the fact that they had cranes pulling stuntmen up in the air, and you don't have that anymore. The CGI, no. I don't want CGI to ruin it too. And I think it just needs to be very, very careful. And I think that's probably why stuff starts coming up. You'll hear about a script floating around every like 5 years. A script will float around.
Yeah.
And rumors will happen, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And diversity is important and it has its place, but I'm a big proponent of story. And if you don't have a story and you're just pumping it out to tick some boxes off for diversity, you're disservicing the story and you're disservicing the diversity, in my opinion. And I think if you're going to, tell a story, then have it on paper first and make sure it's compelling. You know what I mean? I'm on my soapbox.
No, I agree.
And I feel like you and Joe and beautiful ensemble cast, y'all did such a good job that touching that, if you're going to touch it, have it work. And I mean, I guess if you were to pick it up now, as you want to do, it'd be post World War II. Would you want to Vietnam or?
I don't know. I mean, if it's what was it, 1938? And
38, yep, was when the
how many years later is it actually now? It's 30.
God, 34 years from the actual movie, but
34 years from the movie.
So 39.
So say 30 years. So say it's 64. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It's not right.
I feel
think
you. I feel you on that, Billy. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I think I was kind of excited about the David Oyelowo.
David Aiello. Yeah, no, that's right.
Aiello idea, because I think that was still like World War II or something, and had to do maybe with the flying. I
think with the way the Rocketeer is, it's so hard to sell it now. It really is. So I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave it as there's stuff that can be done with it, but we have to be careful. We're treading on. And I'm not going to say it. It's something like the Wizard of Oz. Once something's been made and that lightning's been captured, I don't know you can get it again. It's hard.
I don't know either.
I don't know. All right. Yeah. So here we go. Let's continue on. All right. So let's got the question. New adaptations with love today is nostalgic. So real quick, yes or no? Do you think it would succeed with modern audiences? Do you think people would get it? Is that too complicated of a question?
No, I have no idea. I mean, you would need to sort of capture the same feeling in a way, and I think if you manage to capture the same feeling, that they would. Yeah,
Okay.
you know. Yeah,
All right.
I think so.
I think so too.
Bye.
Oh, Anton, you're bringing the cat.
Yeah.
And Anton, do me one more favor because now I'm recording. Tell me one more time because I want to share this video if Billy's okay with that. But
Yeah.
Anton, tell me one time again what it's like to have your dad be the Rocketeer.
Feels good.
And what do your classmates think when you tell them your dad's the Rocketeer?
They say a lot of things.
Do your older teachers know?
Yeah,
And what do they think?
they think it's super cool.
See,
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't know about that.
Oh, and the cat. I love
Yeah.
the video. The fact that your cat is in the video makes this video so
Come
much
on.
better. I love it.
And this, go on.
Bye.
Bye, Anton.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my next question. Cosplay. You said you've heard of it and you knew
Now I've
about
got
it because
cat hair all over my desk.
All right, so cosplays and conventions. Every time I talk to Jennifer and I tell her that I've met my partner at a convention in Atlanta called Dragon Con.
Mhm.
And Jennifer goes, well, Dave used to go to Dragon Con in like 2002. Dave was there. My first time there was 2003. And every year I go, Billy, there's a guy walking around there's at least 2 or 3 of them. It's like Where's Waldo? If you go up to one of the higher floors, you're like, oh, there goes a Rocketeer. There's another one.
Yeah.
So, what is it like for you hearing that 34 years later? And I got to follow up for that. But what's that make you feel, knowing that 34 years later, there's guys like me who put all this crazy effort, and this is my little office computer room.
Yeah.
What is that? It creeps you out, probably, dude. Really?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't creep me out at all. It might creep me out if I weren't an old Renaissance fair cosplay person myself. But it doesn't creep me out in the least. I don't think it. I don't take it personally either, one way or the other. It's if it weren't me, it would be somebody else. They actually offered the Rocketeer to Johnny Depp, so it could easily have been him.
Yeah, Johnny Depp.
I agree entirely. I don't.
That was not. So that was what, 1989, 1990. He was doing like Edward Scissorhands, and I don't think so though, Billy. I don't think he's.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think so either. And my agent actually talked him out of doing it. And so it fell to me. I agree with you. I can't see Johnny Depp in the part.
So your agent talked him out of it. I like that.
Yeah, my agent, who was had his office next door to Johnny's agent at the time, called me up all excited, and he's like, Tracy, who was his agent, Johnny's agent, Tracy invited me into the room to talk about whether he should do the movie or not. And so he went in the room and actually talked Johnny out of it. So I'm grateful for that.
I would suppose so. And I think they made the right choice, because Johnny's got a certain way about. I love Johnny Depp. Don't get me wrong. His movies are great, but I don't think he would have pulled it off as well as you did. And I'm not trying to, because I'm sitting here talking to you, but I think
I don't know. I mean, he's a good actor, I guess. He would have done something with it.
Sure.
But I don't know.
The universe had other plans.
It didn't work out that way, and I'm glad it didn't. And but I don't have I love that people love the movie, and I love that people still love it and still talk about it, and because it was such a pleasant and important part of my life and a seminal part of my life, I never tire of hearing about people and manifesting their love of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And so my next question here is, we're going to talk improvisation. Were there any improv lines during filming of The Rocketeer? Someone asked me. They wanted to know if you did any improv. Did Joe allow improv, I guess, is the real question.
Yeah, I can't, to be honest, I can't.
And that's been 35 years probably with production involved.
To be honest, I can't. I don't recall.
Do you like to improv?
Sure. I'm not. I don't I don't know that I'm especially good at it, but yeah, I mean, if it's I do less improving, I think, than I do just sort of polishing the lines that are given me if they need tweaking or polishing.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't mind improving. I studied for a bit at Second City in Chicago and did some improving then. It was fun.
It reminds me of the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? I love improv. I
Yeah.
love it. So the Peter Jackson connection. So we were talking about this on text, and so Peter Jackson is a huge Rocketeer. Speaking of fans,
You said that, and I'm half inclined to get my agent to like go figure out what Peter Jackson's new project is and see if he can get me a meeting.
so here's from what I understand, and I'll have to look for the pictures. He owns a screen used costume, I think one that's got a little bit of your sweat still in it, and he wore it to a Halloween party in New Zealand, or it was one of the Hobbit premieres. I'll look for it in the theater there in Wellington,
That's
and
hilarious.
he is a huge Rocketeer fan. And so, would you like to collaborate with Pete if he ever gave you a
I
ring?
would work for him in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, yeah.
And go to New Zealand and check out his.
I love New Zealand with a passion. I was down there on rugby tour in 1987. I was on. I was. It was the first ever rugby union World Cup, and I went on a rugby tour there, and we played locally and played local clubs, and went to the World Cup matches, and it was the most. I still think it was maybe the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life.
Oh, absolutely, the North Island.
Stunning, stunning. I would give anything to go back there.
All right,
I
so there you have it, Peter Jackson.
I almost, there was the Amazon Lord of the Rings series,
Rings of
which
Power, yeah.
Rings of Power, which I watched a little bit of, and I didn't, to be honest, I didn't like it. But they asked me to audition or to put myself on tape for that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know. And in the end, I declined because I just couldn't, I knew it was going to be like most of a year or more in New Zealand. And at the time we had young kids and I just
Sure.
couldn't, it was logistically impossible. But I've always wanted to go back to New Zealand. I would work for Peter Jackson in a heartbeat if he called me.
Now, Billy, I had one person want to know if you ever had the opportunity. I know you'd have to come here to the States. Your son would probably love it. We throw this back on you and we have you walk around the convention and pose with people for photos. A lot of, I think they said the guy that plays Spider-Man right now, he goes around conventions in Spider-Man costume and he'll take pictures with people and then review. What a hoot to see
Yeah,
you
yeah,
and bring your son in on. Oh, it would be great.
yeah.
Would you be up for that, Billy? Come to the States?
No, I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to try pretty hard to get me back to the States right now, the way
Oh,
things are.
yeah. I'll text you my opinions.
Yes. Yep.
You've heard me. Big, beautiful. Yeah. Anyways, so let's go to my next question here. And anyways, though, Peter Jackson, if you're listening to this or ever see this on social media, I've got Billy Campbell here, the Rocketeer himself, and he would love. And I know some people from Weddle Workshop when I came there in the North Island
Mhm.
and visited Park Road Post. And he's got so many Oscars, Billy, that one of them, when you get in the catering line to go get your lunch, he's got one right there in the catering line behind a glass case from the Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
And
I love those movies.
and
So much fun.
they were selling the Hobbit movie at the time, and my partner and I, we were trying our best to get to meet him, and they let
Mhm.
us go to the Folly stage where they did all the sound effects, and they
Yeah.
took us to one of the sound theaters and let us watch the Battle of Pelennor Fields
Wow.
on full volume.
Wow.
And but they took us to one other theater, and right in front of us in the theater, Billy, was a hot teacup, and it still had tea in it. And someone said that day Peter had been looking at final rough cuts of the second one, Desolation of Smog, and
Mm.
I think we just missed him. We just missed
Oh,
him.
yeah.
So Pete, if you want to work with this guy, I'd I'd want to see it, and not to mention we got to get this guy back in a Rocketeer costume. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
well,
You know?
I mean, to be honest, it would have to be a pretty special event to get me off the farm here
No,
in
in
Norway,
next
and
year's 35
I
years.
can confidently say that working for Peter Jackson would be a pretty special event. So,
Yes, 35 years is next year for the
yeah,
Rocketeer.
yeah,
We got to get Disney to do something. They did something for the 10th. I remember they brought you to the El Cap. I wasn't there, and
that's right.
yeah, and they haven't done anything since. We got to do something.
Yeah,
If we do something, I got to be there because I want to meet you in person. I got to meet you
yeah,
in person.
yeah.
Anyways, next up. All right, we're almost done here because I know it's getting late over there in Norway. Um, has living in Norway changed the way you think about the pace of life versus the States versus living there in Norway? How is the pacing there? Are the people different? What do you like about it?
Well, the culture is quite different. It's what would you say? More reasonable, I think. People are fairly reasonable. Um, and, um, it's like, yeah. I mean, I thought, I thought I was a fairly tolerant human being or non-judgmental human being when I first came over to Scandinavia. I came over to work on a tall ship, on a sailing ship, and and I soon discovered that as tolerant and as non-judgmental as I thought I was working on a kind of a I was working on a what do you call it? You're a teacher, a, a curve, grading on a curve.
Yep, rating on a curve. That's where you. Yep.
Um, and I was far more judgmental and afraid of being judged than I thought I was. So things over here are a good deal more relaxed. People are kind of tolerant and reasonable toward each other. And, there are plenty of religious people, but they don't sort of whip it out in public.
Mm-hmm.
And, and life is generally pretty low key and relaxed. And, you know, it's a, it's a great place. Norway's really good about supporting its citizens, um, and there's not a lot of BS.
I like that.
Yeah,
That sounds like a place I'd love to go. I want to go visit one of these days. My last name is Hertzberg, which is
mm.
Scandinavian. I'd love to come visit. Love to come.
Yeah, yeah. You and Hegseth.
Oh yeah, that's right. So you've moved through so many different. Your birthday's coming up on July 7th, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome. Mine is January 19th. Are you ready for this? A little bit of trivia. What Civil War general do you think I share my birthday with? And it's one of the big ones. On I you can I'll tell you what, it can be either it's a Confederate general.
Mm.
What do you think?
AP Hill.
Nope. General Robert E. Lee.
Oh, Rob Lee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my living in the South, my mom and dad are big Civil War buffs, and
Yeah.
I told dad I was interviewing you,
Mm.
and he was really happy to hear that, and he goes, "Ask Billy if he knows about the 54th Massachusetts Regiment and the film Glory." So
Mm.
I promised dad. Have you ever seen the movie with Matthew Broderick called Glory?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, so I promised dad I would ask you that because I told him uh you liked the Civil War and you're from
Yeah.
Charlottesville and you were in a.
That's how I started was as a reenactor, a Civil War reenactor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I start. My mom took me on I think it was my 16th birthday to a reenactment in Virginia somewhere, and I was just blown away. And really wanted to do it, so I joined up the 11th Virginia Albemarle Rifles out of Charlottesville. 11th. Anyway, I can't remember but it was the Albemarle Rifles was the unit, and yeah, did reenactments all over the place.
That's great.
And so when we did Gettysburg, the film Gettysburg, I went down to Virginia and got all my stuff, and I came up to Gettysburg with it. And I camped out while we were doing the movie. Instead of staying in a hotel, I stayed in the encampment with all the soldiers, and it
That
was
is
good
great.
fun. Yeah.
That is great. So I just missed you. Didn't you come to get down to Gettysburg National Monument a year or two ago? Was it?
Yeah, I was there for the 30th.
I just missed you. We were coming back from my partner and I were traveling. We'd just been to New York and Sleepy Hollow, and because I'm a big
Mm,
Washington Irving fan, so I wanted to see his
yeah,
final resting place. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, he was just here not a week ago. So
yeah.
we came at sunset, and we went
Huh.
up the big marble. I guess it's a lookout tower.
Yeah, yeah.
A- Absolutely beautiful. That place is
It's gorgeous.
it's
Yeah,
got an energy to it too. It's
yeah,
really, I don't know, I
yeah.
can't explain it. So
When we were making the film, I remember we went and sat on Little Round Top on the exact uh, day and the exact time of day that the fight at the Little Round Top happened, and it was just crazy. It was the same date and the same day and the same time of day and the same weather as when the fight at Little Round Top happened.
wow,
It was pretty cool.
that's awesome. So the last question here, and then we're going to let you go,
Mm.
so you can go read to your son. So
So I can go
people,
pass out.
there you go, there you go. People always ask, and I already know the answer to this because I listened to your Rocketeer Minute interview,
Mm.
and people always ask, did Billy keep anything from the movies? And I'm always like, no, I think he kept a menu and he gave it. But
Yeah.
I have one piece here, and let me see if I can get it on the camera here for you. Does that look familiar?
Wait a second. Bigelow's Air Circus. Yeah.
Yes. So it's a screen use button,
Yeah.
and I promised my friend Michelle I'd tell you this. She was a extra there in Santa Maria with her brother,
Yeah.
and she was handing out flyers. She was one of the people that handed out flyers for the air
Yeah.
circus. So
Yeah.
she at Dragon Con walked up to me one year and she said, Chris, I know you love the Rocketeer. I want you to have this. And I was like, what is this, Michelle? And she was like, I was in the film. Long story short, she said she got a chance to meet you. You met with a lot of the extras.
Yeah.
And she said you were the kindest, most generous person. And anyways, I promised her I'd tell her that tell you I said that and show her the button. And that's
Oh.
my only screen used prop I have.
Yeah.
And I like it because it has that story attached to it.
Oh.
Michelle was there. And
That's awfully nice.
I've also talked to two other people that were part of the film. One of them was Jennifer Connelly's stand-in,
Mm-hmm.
and when she bops Neville Sinclair on the head with the vase or whatever,
Yeah.
I think they do a close-up, and that's her hand. She said the same thing. You were a very kind person,
Oh.
and genuine is the word that I think I heard, and I agree with that. You are 1000% genuine, and if we had another interview, I'd start asking you about Dracula, but I'm going to keep because I love that movie.
Well,
And
we can do another interview someday.
I think we
That's no
should.
problem.
And
Yeah.
if I'm going to wrap this up, and I just want to say again, thank you so much
No.
for taking the time. And you know, I know this is probably you hear these questions 1,000 times, and
No, it's my pleasure. As I say, if it had been a shitty part of my life, I probably wouldn't I wouldn't enjoy this.
I love it. I love
But
it.
it
But
was, yeah.
happy early birthday. And I'm going to edit some of this stuff down, and I want to send you some some pictures and things I was talking about during the interview to show your
Yeah.
son of the little drawings I have.
Yeah. Dynamite.
Thank you
Look
so
forward
much,
to it.
Billy. And
Yeah.
you have a wonderful evening and happy birthday coming up
Thanks.
here in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Chris.
All right,
Thanks a
Billy,
bunch.
have a wonderful
Yeah.
evening.
All right.
Bye.